Chapter 1. The Scandal That Changed Everything. Levi Sinclair had always been careful. He lived quietly, stayed in his lane, and avoided trouble like the plague. So how in the bloody hell did he end up trapped in a dimly lit study, pressed against a mahogany desk, with the most infuriating alpha in England staring him down? The scent of whiskey and something dangerous clung to August Remington as he loomed too close, gaze unreadable. Levi, arms pinned between them, tried to push him away. "Let me go." Levi's voice was low, sharp. August didn't move. His lips barely curved. "You should have knocked before storming in, Sinclair." Levi glared. "Forgive me for assuming a proper duke-in-waiting wouldn't be sneaking into his father's study like a common thief." "Careful." August's voice dipped into something richer, something dark. He leaned in, too close. "You wouldn't want someone to misunderstand our situation." Levi was about to curse him to hell when the door slammed open. Gasps. Voices. The Dowager Duchess and half the bloody aristocracy stood frozen at the entrance. Levi's stomach plummeted. The scene was damning. His cravat was loose, his shirt slightly askew, and August stood between his legs, hand braced against the desk as if he just caught Levi in an embrace. And then, the words that sealed his fate. "Good heavens! August, what have you done?" Chapter 2. A Marriage Neither Wanted. 3 days later, Levi sat in the lavish Remington estate, fingers tightening around a marriage contract he never asked for. "You have ruined me," Levi seethed, throwing the parchment at August. It skidded across the table. "And now I'm expected to marry you?" August, ever composed, picked up the contract, not even flinching. "You make it sound like I planned this." "You might as well have. You were the one standing over me like some," Levi exhaled sharply. He refused to let the memory of that closeness shake him. August watched him with those unreadable eyes. "I don't want this either, Sinclair. But unless you fancy living in disgrace, there's only one solution." Levi leaned forward, bracing his hands on the table. "Annul it. Buy off the scandal. Do anything but this." August's gaze flickered, just briefly. Then he said, "I have another option. One that will give you back your freedom." Levi stilled. "What are you talking about?" August's lips tilted into something resembling a smirk. "A death certificate." Levi blinked. "Excuse me. You'll marry me, and then we'll fake your death. You can go back to your life. Untouched, unchained." Levi studied him, unsure whether to be relieved or furious. Finally, he exhaled. "And what do you get out of this, Your Grace?" August's smile didn't reach his eyes. "My mother off my back. And a wife who won't demand my bed." Something in Levi's chest tightened at that. He shouldn't care. And yet, the words stung. "Fine," Levi muttered. "But don't expect me to mourn when I'm dead." August laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "I wouldn't dream of it." Chapter 3. The Night Everything Changed. It was supposed to be a sham marriage, a means to an end. So why, 3 weeks later, was Levi being dragged out of bed by a frantic August in the dead of night? "Get dressed," August ordered, already fastening the buttons of his shirt. Levi, groggy and irritated, sat up. "What the hell is going on?" August's jaw was tight, his eyes darker than usual. "My father is dead." Levi stilled. "What?" "They found his body this evening." August grabbed Levi's coat and tossed it at him. "Which means the plan has changed." Levi caught the coat, stunned. "What plan? What are you talking about?" August turned, gaze unreadable. "You're no longer my temporary problem, Sinclair." Levi frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," August said, voice low and dangerous, "that I am now the Duke of Ascot." His eyes locked onto Levi's, burning with something raw. "And I can't afford to let my wife disappear." The words hit like a storm. Levi's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Trapped." The word rang in his skull. The freedom August had promised was gone. And judging by the way August was looking at him now, like a man grasping at control, Levi realized something even worse. This was just the beginning. Chapter 4. A Clash of Wills. Levi was barely awake when August pulled him into the grand estate's candlelit study. The door clicked shut, leaving them alone. "You had no right," Levi hissed. August turned slowly. "Excuse me. You promised me freedom. You said." August's fingers wrapped around Levi's wrist. Not tight, but firm. "I said that before my father was murdered." His voice was rough. "The situation has changed." Levi wrenched free. "You think that gives you permission to own me?" August's expression darkened. "You think I want this?" His voice dropped lower, sharper. "You think I don't see this marriage for what it is?" Levi swallowed hard, something tight in his throat. "Then let me go." August's fingers twitched, like he wanted to touch him. Instead, he exhaled. "I can't." Silence stretched. Something heavy and undeniable between them. Finally, August whispered, "You're mine now, Sinclair." And despite everything, despite how much he should hate it, the word sent a sharp, electric shiver down Levi's spine. Chapter 6. Unspoken Promises. Levi should have left. He should have fought harder. But as he stood in the candlelit bedroom that had been prepared for him, the Duchess's chambers, he realized that escape was no longer an option. He was trapped. The sound of footsteps had him turning just as August stepped inside. His new husband. His captor. "You're not sleeping in here," Levi snapped before August could speak. August raised a brow. "And where would you have me sleep?" "The stables." Levi folded his arms. "I don't care where you go, as long as it's not here." A slow smirk played on August's lips. "You do realize this is my house, Sinclair?" Levi bristled. "And yet, it's my bedchamber." August took a step forward, closing the distance between them. Levi refused to move, refused to be the first to yield. "I don't plan on touching you, if that's what you're worried about," August said, his voice low. "This marriage may be real in the eyes of society, but I won't force you into anything." Levi's throat tightened. "Good. But," August continued, brushing his fingers over the lapel of Levi's coat, "I do expect you to act like my husband in public." His voice turned softer, but no less commanding. "That means walking at my side, allowing me to touch you when necessary." Levi sucked in a breath as August's fingers trailed down his sleeve, the touch barely there. "And why the hell would I agree to that?" August leaned in, his breath warm against Levi's ear. "Because someone killed my father, and the world is watching us now." Levi shivered. Not from fear, but from something far more dangerous. Chapter 7. A Dance of Shadows. The Duke's funeral was a spectacle. Everyone who mattered had come to witness August ascend to his title. And Levi, by unfortunate circumstance, was now a part of this aristocratic mess. The ballroom after the wake was filled with whispers. "Curious eyes." "Smile," August murmured beside him, his hand pressing lightly against the small of Levi's back. Levi hated how easily his body responded. "Go to hell." August chuckled, the rich sound vibrating through Levi's skin. "Later. For now, dance with me." Levi turned to glare at him. "What?" "It's expected," August said, lips quirking. "Husbands must put on a show, after all." Before Levi could protest, August pulled him onto the dance floor. The first touch of August's hand against his waist sent a sharp shock through Levi's spine. The closeness, the heat, it was too much. "Relax," August murmured. "You're holding yourself like a damn statue." Levi gritted his teeth. "Maybe because I don't like being manhandled." August smirked. "A shame. You'd look good beneath me." Levi stumbled. His pulse hammered against his throat. "You—" August's grip tightened, steadying him. His eyes were dark, amused. "Careful, love," he teased. "Wouldn't want people thinking we're not a happy couple." Levi's heart pounded. This was a game to August. A dangerous, infuriating game. But the worst part? Levi was losing. Chapter 8. A midnight confrontation. The door slammed shut behind Levi as he stormed into their shared chambers. "You're insufferable." August followed, voice calm. "And yet, you danced with me, didn't you?" Levi spun around, eyes blazing. "Because I had no choice." August tilted his head. "Didn't you?" Levi's breath caught. There was something about the way August looked at him, like he saw right through every wall Levi had built. A slow smirk played on August's lips. "You liked it," Levi scoffed. "You're delusional." August took a step closer. Levi refused to back away. "Then why," August whispered, "are you trembling?" Levi clenched his fists, trying to ignore the way August's breath brushed against his skin. "I'm cold," he lied. August's gaze dropped to Levi's parted lips. "Liar." The air between them was thick, charged with something that terrified Levi. Then, as if realizing how close they had gotten, August exhaled and stepped back. "You can hate me all you want, Sinclair," he murmured. "But you can't pretend you don't feel this." Levi turned away, hating how right August was. Chapter 9. The Weight of a Name. Levi had never been one for aristocratic games, but he was learning fast. Being the Duke's husband came with expectations, rules, and a constant fight to stay in control. August was always touching him. A hand at the small of his back. Fingers skimming over his wrist. Lips brushing his temple when they greeted guests. It was infuriating how easily Levi's body reacted. "Stop touching me," Levi snapped one evening as they sat before the fire. August didn't even look up from his book. "You didn't seem to mind earlier." Levi flushed. "That was in public. This is different." August finally met his gaze, something knowing in his eyes. "Why?" "Because no one is watching." Levi's breath hitched. "I don't." August smirked, closing the book. He stood, slowly making his way over. "Admit it, Sinclair." His voice dropped lower, sending shivers across Levi's skin. "You like it when I touch you." Levi's heart slammed against his ribs. "I hate you," he whispered. August's fingers brushed over Levi's knuckles. "Then why are you letting me do this?" Levi had no answer. Chapter 10. The Breaking Point. The night was cold, the sky empty of stars. Levi stood at the balcony, gripping the railing as he tried to calm his racing heart. Tried to pretend August's touch hadn't just unraveled him. He heard footsteps. "August." "You keep running," August murmured, standing beside him. "Why?" Levi exhaled shakily. "Because you make it impossible to think." August chuckled softly. "Good." Levi turned sharply. "That's not a compliment." August grinned, but his eyes were dark, intent. "Tell me to stop," August whispered. Levi's breath caught. The world faded. The tension between them snapped. And then August was kissing him. Fierce. Unyielding. Levi should have pushed him away. But instead, he pulled August closer. Chapter 11. A Kiss That Changes Everything. Levi had kissed men before. He had even fallen for a few. But this was different. August's lips were firm, demanding. His hands curled possessively around Levi's waist, pulling him closer as if the mere inches between them were too much to bear. Levi should have pushed him away. Should have. Instead, his hands fisted in August's shirt, grounding himself against the rush of heat threatening to consume him. August's breath was warm against his skin when he finally pulled back. His grip lingered at Levi's waist, unwilling to let go. "You didn't stop me," August murmured. Levi's heart hammered in his chest. He needed space, needed to think. His voice was hoarse, unfamiliar. He wrenched himself free, stepping back as if burned. "This, whatever this is, won't happen again." August's eyes darkened with amusement. "Won't it?" Levi clenched his fists. "No." August smiled. Not smug, not arrogant, just knowing. "All right, Sinclair," he said, voice low. "We'll see." Levi turned on his heel and fled. Chapter 12. the games we play. Avoiding August was impossible. Everywhere Levi turned, he was there. In the study, reading by the fire. In the halls, speaking to staff with that easy, charismatic confidence. At dinner, seated beside Levi, their knees brushing under the table. It was infuriating. It was worse that August knew it. "Have you lost your appetite, Sinclair?" August drawled one evening, watching as Levi pushed food around his plate. Levi forced himself to meet his gaze. "I'm not particularly hungry." August smirked. "That's a shame. I was hoping to feed you myself." Levi's breath hitched. The audacity! Lady Margaret, one of the guests, raised a delicate brow. "How sweet," she mused. "Newlyweds are always so affectionate." Levi choked on his wine. August grinned, all wicked charm. He reached for Levi's hand, thumb dragging slow, purposeful circles against his skin. "My husband is simply shy about our affections," he said smoothly. Levi ripped his hand away. "I despise you." August only laughed. "Ah, but you make it sound so tempting when you say it like that." Chapter 13. A thin line between hate and want. The tension between them was unbearable. Levi could feel it every time August looked at him. Every time he touched him. Like now. They were in the library, alone, a storm raging outside. August leaned against the desk, watching Levi with the kind of intensity that made it impossible to focus. "You're staring," Levi said, not looking up from his book. August's lips curled. "You're ignoring me." Levi turned the page. "I'm reading." August pushed off the desk and walked toward him, slow and deliberate. Levi refused to look up, even as August came too close. A hand brushed against Levi's shoulder. A touch so light, so fleeting, it sent a violent shiver through him. "You're tense," August murmured. "Why?" Levi snapped his book shut. "Because you're insufferable." August chuckled. "I think you like it." Levi stood abruptly. "I think you have an inflated ego." August grinned. "And yet, here we are." Levi's pulse pounded. Too close. Too warm. Too much. His body betrayed him. Again. August noticed. "You can run, Sinclair," he whispered, voice dangerously soft. "But I'll always catch you." Chapter 14. Caught in the storm. The storm raged through the night. The winds howled, rattling the windows, drowning the world in darkness. Levi couldn't sleep. He sat by the fire, rubbing his arms to chase away the chill. He should be alone. But he wasn't. August leaned against the doorframe, watching him. "You should be in bed," Levi muttered, not looking at him. August stepped closer. "So should you." Levi exhaled sharply. "What do you want?" August didn't answer right away. He crouched beside Levi, eyes tracing over his face with quiet intensity. Finally, he murmured, "You." Levi's breath hitched. The fire cast flickering shadows across August's face, making his eyes seem darker, more dangerous. "You don't mean that," Levi whispered. August smiled. "I always mean what I say." A shiver ran through Levi's spine. "Then you're a fool." August chuckled. "Perhaps." His fingers brushed against Levi's cheek. A light touch. Barely there. And yet, Levi felt it everywhere. "Tell me to stop," August whispered. Levi opened his mouth. But no words came. Because he didn't want him to stop. And August knew it. Chapter 15. Surrender. The moment August kissed him again, Levi stopped pretending. Stopped pretending that he didn't want this. Stopped pretending that August's touch didn't unravel him. It was fire. Relentless. Unforgiving. August pushed him against the wall, hands framing Levi's face as he kissed him. Deep, slow, intoxicating. Levi's knees nearly buckled. August held him up. "You taste like regret," August murmured against his lips. Levi fisted his shirt. "Shut up and kiss me." August's laugh was low, dangerous. "With pleasure." Their bodies pressed together, heat coiling between them, something dark and unshakable settling in Levi's chest. August kissed him like a man starving, like Levi was something he could not live without. Levi let him. Because in that moment, with August's lips devouring him, he didn't want to stop. He didn't want to fight anymore. Chapter 16. The morning after. Levi woke to warmth. Not just the heat of the sun filtering through the curtains, but the solid weight of August's arm draped over his waist. Panic struck him before reason did. He sucked in a sharp breath, his body tense, his mind racing. He was still in bed. August's bed. And August was still asleep. Levi shifted carefully, trying to pry himself free without waking the man beside him. Running away again? August's voice was hoarse with sleep. Levi froze. August's fingers traced a slow path over his hip, lazy and unhurried. I thought we were past that. Levi wrenched himself free, rolling out of bed and grabbing his robe. Distance. He needed distance. Last night was a mistake, he said, voice too sharp. August sighed and sat up, the sheets pooling at his waist. He looked unbothered. Smug, even. If that's what helps you sleep at night, Sinclair. Levi's fingers tightened around the fabric of his robe. You think this is funny? I think you're a coward. Levi whipped around. Excuse me. August's gaze pinned him in place. You want me. You've always wanted me. But the moment you finally have me, you run. Levi's pulse pounded. August slid out of bed, his bare feet soundless against the floor as he approached. Tell me, Sinclair, he murmured, his voice a dangerous caress. How long do you plan to fight yourself? Levi swallowed. As long as it takes. August smirked. Then I suppose I'll have to make you surrender. Chapter 17. The Duke's Command. Levi spent the next 3 days avoiding August. It was childish. Pathetic, even. But every time their eyes met, Levi felt like his entire body was on fire. It didn't help that August made it impossible to ignore him. At breakfast, he would drag his fingers over the rim of his teacup, watching Levi like a predator. At dinner, he would brush his hand against Levi's thigh under the table, pretending as if nothing had happened. And at night, August left his door slightly ajar. A silent invitation. A dare. Levi hated him for it. So when August finally cornered him in the study, Levi was already on edge. You've been avoiding me, August said, shutting the door behind him. Levi folded his arms. I've been busy. August raised an unimpressed brow. Busy lying to yourself? Levi clenched his jaw. Not everything is about you. August's smirk was infuriating. Isn't it? Levi hated how easily August unraveled him. How just standing near him stole his breath. August took a step forward. Then another. Levi refused to move. You're my husband, Sinclair, August murmured, his voice dark and full of promise. And I want you in my bed. Every night. Levi's pulse roared in his ears. You don't get to command me, he bit out. August leaned in, his lips brushing against Levi's ear. I do when you want it. Levi shoved him away and stormed out of the room. But the worst part? He did want it. Chapter 18. A Dangerous Game. Levi knew he was losing control. Every time August touched him, he melted. Every time August whispered something reckless, he ached. And August knew it. That was the worst part. So when Levi walked into their shared bedroom one evening to find August standing there, shirt undone, smirking like the devil himself, he knew he was doomed. Finally, August said, crossing his arms. I was beginning to think you'd keep pretending forever. Levi's heart slammed against his ribs. What do you want, August? August stepped closer. You. Levi tensed. You already have me. You made sure of that the day we were forced to marry. August's smirk faded. I want more than a marriage of convenience. Levi scoffed. You expect me to believe that? August's gaze darkened. I expect you to feel it. Levi sucked in a breath when August cupped his jaw, tilting his head back. The touch was gentle. Too gentle. You pretend you don't want me, August murmured. But every time I touch you, you shatter. Levi's fingers curled into fists. You're playing a dangerous game. August smiled. I always win. Levi should have walked away. Instead, he let August kiss him senseless. Chapter 19. No more denial. Levi gave in. There was no more pretending, no more running. Every stolen touch, every heated glance, it all came to this. August kissed him like a man drowning, like Levi was his last breath. Levi let him. Their clothes hit the floor. Skin against skin, heat against heat. Every time Levi pulled away, August dragged him back. Rough. Desperate. You don't get to leave, August whispered against his lips. Not anymore. Levi arched into his touch. I hate you, he gasped. August smirked against his throat. You hate how much you need me. Levi hated that it was true. Chapter 20. Something more. Morning came too soon. Levi woke to find himself tangled in August. His head on August's chest. August's arm around his waist. Their legs twined together. It felt safe. Too safe. Levi tried to move. August tightened his grip. Stay, he murmured, voice thick with sleep. Levi's chest tightened. You don't get to ask that of me. August opened his eyes. His gaze softer than Levi had ever seen it. But I am, August said simply. And I think you want to stay. Levi swallowed hard. For once, he had no argument. Chapter 21. A fragile piece. Levi sat at the writing desk, staring at the half-finished letter. The ink had dried. His hand had stopped moving an hour ago. Because how did he even begin to put into words what had happened? What he and August had become? The bedroom door opened behind him. Levi didn't turn. You're quiet today, August said, stepping inside. His voice was too careful. Levi swallowed. And you're suddenly interested in my moods? A soft chuckle. I've always been interested in you, Sinclair. Levi hated how his heart clenched at that. Why are you here? He asked instead. August moved closer, until he was standing right behind Levi's chair. Because you've been avoiding me all morning. Levi turned sharply. Avoiding you? We sleep in the same bed, Wilde. August's smirk was dangerous. Exactly. And yet, when I reached for you this morning, you were already gone. Levi looked away. I had work to do. August's fingers brushed against Levi's wrist, sending heat through his skin. Or maybe you're running again. Levi's throat tightened. Not everything is about you. August crouched beside him, his gaze searching Levi's face. Then tell me, Sinclair, what is this about? Levi hesitated. Because if he answered honestly, he would have to admit the truth. That this, whatever they were, terrified him. Chapter 22. A jealous duke. Levi was too aware of August's presence. And August knew it. So when a young lord at the estate gathering openly flirted with Levi, August didn't take it well. At all. I must say, Lord Sinclair, your eyes are rather captivating, Lord Bertram said with a charming smile. Levi forced a polite laugh. You flatter me, my lord. August's voice cut through the conversation like a blade. He does not need your flattery. Levi tensed. He turned, only to find August standing much too close. Lord Bertram raised an eyebrow. I meant no offense, Your Grace. August's smile was anything but kind. Then you won't mind if I steal my husband away. Levi barely had time to react before August's hand was at the small of his back, guiding him out of the ballroom. The moment they were alone, Levi whirled around. That was unnecessary. August's jaw ticked. He was looking at you like he had a right to. Levi folded his arms. And what does that have to do with you? August's gaze darkened. Everything. Levi hated how his pulse raced. You're being ridiculous, he muttered. August stepped closer, until there was barely any space between them. Am I? Levi swallowed. Yes. August's lips hovered just over his. Then why are you shaking? Levi had no answer. So he let August kiss him breathless. Chapter 23. A dangerous proposition. Marry me. For real. Levi almost choked on his wine. He set the glass down, staring at August from across the study. We are married, you idiot. August leaned back in his chair, his smirk infuriatingly calm. You know what I mean. Levi shook his head. No. I really don't. August leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. We both know this marriage was a sham from the start. A way to avoid scandal. But things have changed. Levi's pulse pounded. Nothing has changed. August's gaze burned. Then why do you let me touch you? Levi froze. You say this marriage means nothing, August continued, his voice dangerously soft, but every time I pull you into my bed, you stay. Levi clenched his fists. That doesn't mean I love you. August's smirk vanished. Then prove it, he said. Walk away. Levi's breath caught. Because he couldn't. Chapter 24. A confession in the rain. The storm was raging. Thunder rolled across the sky as rain pounded against the manor. Levi stood outside, drenched, heart slamming against his ribs. August found him there. Levi, what the hell are you doing? August pulled him under the awning, shaking his head. You'll catch your death. Levi laughed bitterly. You always have to be in control, don't you? August's jaw tightened. What is this really about? Levi met his gaze. Everything hit him at once. The way August always chased him. The way August's touch made him come undone. The way August looked at him like he was his entire world. Levi's chest ached. You're an insufferable bastard, he said. August huffed a laugh. And Levi exhaled. And I think I love you. The words hung between them. August's eyes softened. Think. Levi swallowed. No. I know. The next thing he knew, August was kissing him. Hard. Desperate. Like Levi was the only thing that mattered. And for the first time, Levi stopped fighting. Chapter 25. No more running. The bed was warm. August's fingers traced slow patterns over Levi's skin. Say it again, August murmured. Levi rolled his eyes. I love you, Wilde. Are you happy now? August chuckled, pulling him closer. Ecstatic. Levi sighed, letting himself sink into the moment. He had spent so long running. So long pretending that his heart wasn't already claimed. August had chased him, broken down his walls, refused to let him hide. And now, Levi was done fighting. He pressed a soft kiss to August's shoulder, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm not going anywhere. August's hold tightened. Good, he murmured against Levi's hair. Because I would have chased you again. Levi smiled. Of course he would have. And for once, Levi would have let him.